Meanwhile, the bar is open, so get whatever you like, or whatever you have. Let's put it that way, yeah.
Red wine, white, beer.
We've even got water.
Coffee.
Water's good.
I'd like a 7 and 7.
We can
I
do
used
that
to be
right
a
now.
bartender
We
back
wouldn't have
in
a
the
license. We won't have the license for that at Works, but you can do that tonight.
That's it.
A 7 and 7 at 7 o'clock. Perfect.
Yeah. Welcome everyone to Well Read at Works San Jose. We have the president of Works San Jose with us, Joe Miller, and would like to give it to Joe Miller to make some announcements about what's going on at Works and to deliver some information about the book, including various artists that were included in this great volume of poetry and art. So go ahead, Joe. Let's have you on board. And for those of you joining us tonight, just know that you'll be muted for of convenience, making sure that the audio goes well. Chat will be open. Go ahead, Joe.
All right, so thanks a lot. First, a couple of notes on Works. We've got Flash Fiction Forum tomorrow night, so I'll be putting up a link to that in the chat if you want to join us for Flash Fiction Forum. It's a curated a reading of 12 flash fiction readers, and goes along pretty snappy, and starts also at 7 p.m. and different link for it, of course, there, but we'll get that to you. There's some exciting things with Works. We will be having a new home in 2022, probably about 14 months from right now, and it'll be an interesting site with Create TV and others. And there'll be kind of theater-like accommodations there, as well as the gallery and that. So a different sort of capability. And so we're really excited about it. There'll be some details in the future, in the coming couple months to few months. What I want to do right now is I want to introduce you a little bit here to Veterans of Life Right book. And whoa, you guys went way up there. Let me get you. That way I can see faces. Hold on, it went to another screen. Okay. That'll happen now and then when you pop on to sharing. But when I first started working on the design, by the way, I'm the designer of the book, not a writer in that book, but a designer of the book. And when I first started to think about it, I was coming across these contemporary flags, and this is a modern innovation here in camouflage to have the flag drenched of color. That there were either real problems or perceived problems in the Army about the red, white, and blue flag on the side of camouflage uniforms. It kind of didn't make sense. So this got talked about in aesthetics, though, as far as the flag being drenched of color like that, and that became the image there inside of the type of the book cover. Hopefully, you guys have your copies of it here, but that is the cover, and there's one of the flags on the back cover, with then the gray version, the silver version kind of the flag then on the title page here with Veterans of Life Right. So I combine that with cups by Aaron Toole. Aaron was somebody who I met at Works. He's done this cup thing since he got back from service in Vietnam, and he's done thousands upon thousands of these cups, and he gives them all away. This is one that he gave to me after being an exhibition at Works, and so I photographed it to be on the cover. And Aaron sent me others that are in here as well, and some that are in the book like these, some that are not in the book as well. So like I said, he's made thousands of them, and if you contact him, he's up in the Berkeley, Oakland area, and you can find him there, and he'll send you a cup, you know. So track him down, Aaron Toole. Yeah, he's a wonderful, wonderful man. Along the way, I met others that Ed talked about and has been in groups with of veteran artists, and I met online I met the wife of Ed Carrion. He's not doing great health-wise, and so only she and I talked, actually, but set me up with his wonderful art that has gotten lots of talk about in the book as well. And I wish I could show you some of the detail here in these things, because it's just extraordinary work, and just like explosive but yet gentle somehow in its approach to things. Sam Smith is in the book. Sam was a veteran of the Korean War, and he was a mentor of mine in design school at San Jose State, and so he and I became friends for the rest of his life, and now maybe the majority of mine. But he passed away a couple of years ago. He did these panels for a group called Healing Environments, which was about going through grief and change in life and difficult times. And so I set up with his daughter Becca Smith to arrange to get these from Healing Environments. And they're divided onto 2 pages in the book, and there's a little bit of scrunching and Photoshop work to get it to fit into the 2 pages. So these are the whole compositions of the 2 that are in the book. And then here's a couple more that have Sam's writing as well as his illustration. Sam was known a lot for typography and for logo design and for signage all around Palo Alto. He did signage of several buildings there and all of the public parking lots and that sort of thing. But this is a really different thing then, where it's very personal for him. And he gave me several of these books, and so I thought of them and thought of him when it was kind of coming out, and we decided to use 2 of them. Doug, who's of course with us tonight, is the one writer in the book who is also an artist, and here's one of his photographs that is in there, kind of illustrating really one of his poems, which has the anchor in it, as I recall. And here's another piece by Doug that we did not put in the book. There's tons of things that we didn't put in the book, and a lot of people ask me, well, why couldn't you just add one more sheet of paper, like two things? And when you do these book design things, it has to be, this book had to be segments of 8 pages. So if you add 1 page, you have to add 8 pages and the cost of 8 pages. So we weren't going to cut any poems, but we did cut a lot of art. So there's beautiful things that didn't make it in. But I really wanted to end with this, and I know it's a little bit of a snarky statement there, but on the inside of the flag, it really was there on one of them. It might not have actually been on this one. This is the original scan that I did here, right next to me on my scanner, of these flags that I got from a military surplus store here in California, and it did indeed come with the Made in Taiwan tag that was there, that we put onto the very back text page. So there's our book, and I really hope that you have your copy of it with the great poems. And now I'm as anxious as anyone to now hear what the book sounds like.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much for that, and for everyone who participated in making this a reality. Just a few notes about upcoming events at Poetry Center. To note, San Jose Poetry Slam at Caravan Lounge will feature Melissa May on Sunday, March 14th. Then we have Third Thursday at Willow Glen Library, and we'll be featuring Ellen Bass and also Barbara Rass. 7 p.m., as well as 7 p.m. for San Jose Poetry Slam. Bashar, a theme-based monthly literary reading series in Hindi, and that will be on Saturday, March 27th at 7 p.m. And Cæsura, now open for submissions. And the theme is unmasking. Red Wheelbarrow Poetry Prize 2021 with final judge Mark Doty will be open for submissions on April the 1st. And the first youth poet laureate should be announced fairly soon. More information about all of these events and happenings will, you can find them on pcsj.org or on our Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We also have Legacy of Poetry Festival that we're working with out of San Jose State, and that will take place April 15th through the 23rd with many events, workshops, performances, films, panel discussions, and many authors such as Lillian Von Bertram, Sarah Gemsky, Carmen Jimenez Smith, Toy Derricott, Alan Bass, and Janice Lobo Sapagal. So hope to see you at some of those events or all of those events. They're free, and we would appreciate, of course, if you renew your membership to help pay the artists and keep the show going. Now I'm going to begin the program with our first author, Jeffrey Leonard, who served in the U.S. Army between 1966 and 68. Drafted out of San Jose State, he trained as an 11C40, leaving the service as an E5. He is a 12th generation descendant of men who have served in every major conflict dating back to pre-revolutionary America. A survivor of the Vietnam era, he is drawn to the stories of the returning soldiers and how their lives unfold after they remove the uniform. Please now welcome Jeffrey Leonard.
Thank you very much, Rob, for that introduction. And on behalf of myself and all the wonderful poets who are going to be reading tonight, we want to thank you, the board, especially Joe, and the beautiful job that he did putting this together. It's just a remarkably wonderful piece that we're so honored to be part of. So thanks very much for all that you've done. I get to read first because I had the foresight to write a dedication to this group. And so my first poem is dedicated to the very writers who make up this group. And the title of it is called Heraclitus Was Right. Heraclitus of Ephesus was right when he wrote, "What was scattered gathers, what was gathered blows away." Veterans write are members who come from various locations, cities, countries, to gather to share language, words of pain, joy, confusion, discovery, attuned with healing from what spiritually troubles us. Language of the poets is a salve that treats suffering. Heraclitus was right when he declared, "The unlike is joined together, and from difference results the most beautiful harmony. We are men and women, old and not so old, veterans of the military, veterans of life, joined and bonded by love of humanity, empowered by love of language, and the journey to the edge of where words leave off. 4 years and counting, Heraclitus was right. My next poem, I was able to talk about a close childhood friend who managed to survive the war, but was not capable of surviving what was going on inside him. And a book I had read about what it means to go to war. The title of it is After Reading What It Is Like to Go to War by Karl Marlantes. Marlantes observes the Marine Corps taught how to kill, but didn't teach how to deal with killing. He had come upon the terrible responsibility and guilt for the wounds and death of his men. He describes the moral quagmire warriors face from the sacrificial fire called war. I know there was little or no treatment for the returning Vietnam vets. Combat was a soul-battering experience. There was no spiritual combat prophylactic, no training for men to prepare for the possible horrible consequences. Warriors will always have to deal with guilt and mourning. Doug Coughlin came home from Nam. A dark shadow followed this former Army man. Conversation, any interaction seemed awkwardly strained. I kept my distance. So did old friends. Eventually, he fell in love and married, moved to the South Bay for work, heard there was a child, took a handgun and killed himself October of 1974. Now a name on the Wall of Angels, suicide memorial below Ben Kovar, above Michael Krajewski. And now a memoir, a poem about my childhood. It's titled First Sip. It's 1951. The four of us living in a 2-bedroom on 139th Avenue. Mom takes Chris to Aunt Donna's down the street. Dad positions 2 wing chairs in front of a 12-inch Philco. The Gillette Friday night fights, you know, look sharp, be sharp, will be my initiation into pugilism. And those nicknames, Bobo, Kid, Sugar Ray, Jersey Joe, and the sound of a can of Bergie being opened by a church key. Here, take a sip. I'm 5 years old. Dad begins to explain the nuances of the sport, requests that I pick a boxer. I like the guy in the black trunks. Smart choice, Dad explains. He's the light heavyweight champion of the world. Evenings of Friday night fights will repeat again and again. I asked my first grade friends out on the schoolyard, ever seen Ezzard Charles box? He's going against Jersey Joe. My schoolmates look at me in stunned bewilderment. I quickly ascertain this interest in boxing is to be a father-son thing. Over the next several years, I developed favorites. Sugar Ray Robinson, Bobo Oslin, Harold Johnson. I score the rounds, argue outcomes with my father, enjoy the first sip of his lucky lager. This poem is a takeoff on Dogen Zenji's One Continuous Mistake. I take to heart, right from the start, this life of mine one continuous mistake. A crooked belly button that I spend every moment of my day to try and straighten out. I'm listing this way and that, trying to find my way home and not capsize the whole enterprise. My final poem for the evening is the first poem I ever wrote that included thoughts or memories of the Army or Vietnam. And it's dedicated, as all my poetry is, to this person, Tom Bergren, who was my high school and college roommate. The title is Remembering Tom Bergren. It's Veterans Day 2014. I'm making my way slowly down Newport Avenue. My shoes crunch softly on sidewalks suffused with fallen sycamore leaves. My unhurried walk is purposeful. I walk to remember Thomas Howard Bergren, high school friend, college roommate, now long departed. Tom's identity is etched into the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, honored panel 58E, row 19. He still comes to visit me in dreams, my old college roommate. 6 feet, 5 inches tall, trim, slight facial hair, beaming a broad Scandinavian smile, wearing those high above the ankle moccasins he got in Mazatlan in 65. Tom, shot down in a helicopter May 11th, 1968, Casualty Province, Long On. Forever 22. And now remembered, this young man from San Lorenzo on a chunk of ebony granite, just east of the Shark Tank, as a son of San Jose, one of 142. In Archibald MacLeish's poem, The Young Dead Soldiers, they say, we leave you our deaths. MacLeish instructs, give them their meaning. Tom, it's been 46 years since that damn war claimed you. I have vowed to use this one precious life to give meaning to yours. My shoes crunch softly on sidewalks suffused with fallen sycamore leaves. Life and death is all around us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you so much for your contributions and for those poems and for memorializing those you've loved. Next, please now welcome to the mic Carol Steele, who comes from a military family. Both of her parents served in World War II. Her first husband and daughter's father was in the Air Force in Vietnam, and her grandson is currently in the Army. Carol has been writing poetry about the family experience while having a loved one in the military during a time of war. She studied with Alan Bass for 8 years and is currently in a poetry salon with Patricia MacMillan and is a member of Veterans of Life Right. Please welcome to the mic, Carol Steele.
Thank you. You can hear me, right? Thank you. Thank you for having us. It's a true honor to be here. And thank you for the beautiful, beautiful book. I'm going to begin with 2 haiku. His deepening voice reports he's just enlisted. Again, spring rain, rain. In sweltering heat, his class graduates 1 step closer to boot camp. And the first poem is Boot Camp. It's late July, my grandson's first week of boot camp in Missouri. He's had another physical, his hair cut off, been issued Army uniforms and glasses. He wants to be a medic, drop in from a chopper, carry out the wounded under fire. I could hear his grandfather telling how he'd go into a village, look for stored arms, call in the aircraft, and get out fast. Both his grandfathers did reconnaissance in Vietnam and came home with canyons of hurt that we didn't understand. When I found out I was pregnant, my husband was thrilled. 5 months later, he left town. My grandson talks to his friends already in Iraq. They said they were afraid until they got hit with their first IED. After that, it wasn't so bad. I sit at home and wonder, could we have done anything, or was he born acorn to the oak? Secret wedding. Before deployment to Iraq, my grandson married his high school sweetheart in Hawaii, where she was stationed. They must have been striking together, each with their raven-colored hair. I think of all the soldiers who married before shipping out for World War II. My parents, both in uniform, first saw each other waiting for a bus. I was 21 when I married an airman, just home from Vietnam. Didn't have any idea what I was in for. Are they like peonies cut early from the plant? The heat of war forces their bloom. They're beautiful, but how long will they endure? The longest week. Dustin called and sounded terrible, his mother said. He's going on a week's mission, but can't say where. 2 of the trucks in the convoy have only street protection, and he's driving one of them. CNN reports that the U.S. returns control of Anbar province to the Iraqis next Monday. Will my grandson be there? I tense each time the phone rings. When I hear my daughter's voice, I can tell it's not bad news. I could talk to my friends, but then I would cry. Right now, I'm just trying to get through. Driving home, jazz turned up on the radio. Afternoon sun filtered through the trees, and I felt happy. Half an hour had passed without thinking of him. We've made it through Friday now. 3 more days to go. Jump. Dustin did well in basic training and got to choose extra training and who he wanted to work with. He went to jump school and worked with special forces. I think he wanted the challenge and physicality of jumping. One day, while stationed in Iraq, he was holding a prisoner at gunpoint when their plane was shot down. Holding the detainee at weapon point, they guided a second plane. A few minutes later, it too was shot down. He jumped again, still holding the prisoner at gunpoint. They guided a third plane to finish the mission. That was the day he turned 20. His second deployment. Sitting in Starbucks with my daughter, sipping my venti drink, I ask about Dustin. Has he heard when he deploys? He still thinks June. He hopes Iraq or Afghanistan. Why not Africa, I ask. He said he doesn't want to shoot little kids. I go home and look up boy soldiers. They're kidnapped as young as 6, beaten, starved, brainwashed, given drugs, and made to fight. I think of Dustin, lean and lanky, playing on the floor with his girlfriend's son, or coaxing him bite by bite to eat more, because the little guy is too small. How he lifts him high in his arms to carry him to the car. After another tour, what shadows will be in his eyes, burdens on his shoulders. All the young soldiers from all the lands, what will they carry home? Again, I'll hang prayer flags outside my kitchen window, bright colors, each month slowly fading to gray. The black ink bleaching out in the sun. Before my grandson's tour is over, wind will tear the flags to ragged strips, prayers carried on the air. I'll wear my rubber camouflage bracelet with his name on it, I'll keep his picture in uniform, face sober, the flag behind him, and my letter to him waiting for the mail on the altar by my door. I devour every bit of combat news, study this war like I studied Vietnam. There my best friend died. The men I knew who came back were broken inside. My grandson, may he come back, and if he's wounded, may they be wounds he can heal from. And this is the final poem I'll read, and it has a little bit of like a prose poetry at the beginning and then a series of haiku at the end. It's titled Somewhere in Afghanistan. Sitting in the Santa Ana airport on the way home, my daughter calls. Have you seen Facebook? What's wrong, I ask. Dustin deploys to Afghanistan in 3 weeks. He'll be on a big base in charge of tower security, but we don't know where. Struggling to hold back tears, I say, I've been expecting this. Thinking of you cards for my soldier grandson, the chill of autumn. Wearing a bracelet in camouflage with his name, autumn loneliness. He'll be guarded an Afghan base, but where, we don't know. Wind of 120 days. A scrap of news he might be home soon, early daffodils. Deployment over and home from Afghanistan, the mountain smiles. I put my camel bracelet on the Jesus statue, Spring Reiru. And a Jesus statue is a Japanese statue for the protection of children. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol, for those poems. Fantastic. Now, please welcome to the mic, Nick Butterfield. Nick served for 10 years in the USR as a hospital corpsman. He was activated during Operation Desert Storm. He works in family practice as a nurse practitioner in a FQHC Community Clinic and with healthcare for the Homeless Project for the last 17 years. He has been writing poetry since he was 13 years old. He has participated in open mics at the Willow Glen Poetry Project and other local venues since 1996 and was recently featured reader for Willow Glen Poetry Project. His poems have appeared in 4 anthologies and in Cæsura. Please welcome Nick Butterfield.
Thank you. Thank you. I think, as mentioned in the beginning of the book, I think anybody over 50s probably was affected by the Vietnam War. I wasn't old enough, I wasn't of age to be in the uniform at that time, but I wrote a poem called Sharpened Bamboo when I was this is about when I was around 10 or 11. Sharpened bamboo could pierce a battle boot, a trap the Viet Cong were known for. I knew this at a young age in the late 60s from a cartoon-like illustrated booklet issued by the US Army for new recruits to study before entering jungle warfare in Vietnam. The 2 older brothers had already left for overseas, had left the booklet at home. In their house on a buried turntable in early mornings, the 2 younger brothers, my age, and I would listen to Sergeant Barry Sadler's Green Beret more than once. I only saw their dad rarely. Big, strong, a butcher by trade, I sensed my friend's dad and mom resting and reclining on their sofas while we ran through their dark living room on a sunny day. I knew he cried when his sons left. I also learned that summer on a black and white TV in 1969, we could land a rocket on the moon. What I didn't know was that bamboo could hurt so bad. This one, it's called Warrior Gene. I once waited all my life for the lonely afternoon to pass. Still lingers chemicals of fight or flight. What appears to have fallen was strong enough to let go. Shadows. My first poem was about a dark room. Though it wasn't about the room, but how it felt. The shadows, the aloneness, is like how poetry is not about the words, but about the worlds inside us. The dark that best shows the light, the commonness we share. How shadows form in a different life, just as the moon wouldn't have a face without the shadows. Bukowski said, we all say the same thing, but in a different way, like a baby finding its way out and us finding our way back. Our last communion will end in a darkened room full of light. This one's about my neighbor. Star on Blue. There is someone, somewhere, to whom the bell of freedom is too heavy to carry. So when you fall, dying is not so hard, as though gravity could actually help. I once waved goodbye to our neighbor who fought in Iwo Jima. He waved his light blue cap like a cowboy on a horse while the ambulance doors closed. It didn't feel like goodbye, rather a greater and deeper blue of sky. Let's see. This one I like. It's called Sunday Morning. He said, one can die of loneliness. And he carries something in his wallet that reminds him of Christmas. Alone, would he count the ticking sounds of a pocket watch? Had he never been to the desert when the power went out? In his retirement, had they forgot to give him a silver pin, though his heart is gold? There are those who play records over a time, though time holds no record of love, since love cannot be contained, cannot disappear, can take short walks when a friend calls, not knowing if life and death ever met. This one's called Mars Hiding. Scars on his face were from acne when young. The missing teeth was an old basketball injury. A Pearl Harbor survivor we knew about. Mom said Dad was sad about the friends he lost. That's what we all knew. Not the smell of diesel fuel and burning flesh on a once calm Sunday morning somewhere in paradise. This one, this is a fun one. It's called Enlightenment. He said, I stepped on and killed a cockroach. He said, I think it had a lot of eggs on its underside. She said, ugh. He said, I guess I'm not enlightened, or is that just for not stepping on ants? She said, no, that's for cockroaches too. He said, I guess I'm no Buddha. She said, I never thought you were. I think I wanted to do one. This was inspired by Emilio's dog, his service dog, Samson. It's called Anima. Click, click, click. She lets me take her paw. Click, click, click. We'll play and have some fun. Click, click, click. She came here for someone. Click, 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 because of what a war had done. Click, 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 the sound of some kind of gun. Click, 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 what have we done? Click, 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 in my dreams we are on the run. Click, 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 the sounds her paws make. Click, 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 I wake as she licks me on the face. Click, click, click. The kids are hungry. I forgot the milk. My last one is Memorial Day. It didn't make it in the book, but I always like to read it for veterans events. It's called Memorial Day, and it's about all the people that, and the medical people that helped during the pandemic and are currently doing so. But I wrote it on Memorial Day. Memorial Day. When we return, those bodies and bags should be wrapped in our flag. Our eagle should remind us to be brave. Our leaders should be crying and scratching the earth. And when we return to what is normal, give thanks to those who washed your underwear and to the God who gave you mercy. And to those you'll never see, wrap them in linens and bury them in your prayers.
Thank you, Nick.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, wow. Now we have next Carol Coughlin, who was born in Germany to an American army man she never knew, and her mother, a young German woman. Raised by her grandmother on stories and poems, she moved to the US at age 9 with her mother and adopted father, an Air Force man. Please now welcome to the mic, Carol.
Thank you. So I was 7 when my mother married Ray, and he adopted me. And I was 9 when we came to the US. And I've been writing about different places that we lived. So this next poem is about the second place we lived, the first one being Tucson, Arizona. And this is a snippet of my coming of age. I was thinking about what it was like for my parents. And so the collective experience is that if you know any child or are the parent of a child who's inching their way to adolescence, you may suddenly find that your chunky monkey is unrecognizable to you, and you have no idea what he or she will become or what changes his or her generation will bring. So this is called Fearless in Ohio. Before the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan, before Haight-Ashbury and the Summer of Love, before Woodstock and 3 days of love, peace, and music, my friends and I crossed from childhood into puberty, swinging on the vines overhanging the Wilson Creek in Wilmington, Ohio. The boys, voices cracking with their Tarzan shouts, while we girls, barely 12 and still tomboys all, tried to emulate Jane, fearless yet feminine, when we landed in the mud on the other side. The vines were slippery, so sometimes we landed smack in the middle of the creek with the other tadpoles swimming their way to adult froghood. Afterwards, the girls cleaned up at Sharon's house, whose mother let us curl our eyelashes and even try on makeup before wiping it all off so we could go home, still the innocent children of our parents who had no clue of what was to come. So the place we moved after Ohio was South Dakota. And my dad always got transferred in the middle of the year, it seems. So we moved to South Dakota. We got there in April, and I was already worried about, was I going to have anybody to be friends with during the summer? And so I think the first or second week of school, the boy that was sitting in front of me, Charlie, he had a seizure and he fell back and his head was banging on my desk. And the teacher ran out of the room. She was a young woman. I don't know if she was scared or going to get the nurse, but I didn't want Charlie to keep hitting his head on my desk. So I just pointed to a couple kids and I said, help me put Charlie on the floor so he won't keep hurting himself, and let's touch him so that when he comes to, he'll know he's not alone. And so a couple of days later, when Charlie came back to school, he thanked me and told me that his father was in charge of the riding stables on the base, and would I like to go riding sometime? And I was thrilled. I said, yeah, I would love that. And so I fell in love that year, not with Charlie, although we became good friends, but with a horse. So the poem is called The Girl That I Was. Just outside of Rapid City, South Dakota, an eagle cries in the early summer morning as I walk to the stables to clean stalls, so Charlie's father will let me ride my favorite Indian pony. He said the pony was dangerous, hardly liked anyone, but he liked me from the day we set eyes on each other. He stood quietly by the fence while I saddled him. Charlie's father said, well, I'll be. The pony neighed softly. Later, we would ride slowly, properly, until we were out of sight. Then the girl that I was leaned slightly forward, prodding the pony into a slow canter, then a full-on gallop into the mini Badlands. It was our secret. The girl that I was, so proper and well-behaved, didn't have many opportunities to burst into blossom out in nature. So the third poem I want to read, I wanted to read this because it's opposite the page with Ed Carrion's wonderful piece of art called Liberty. And I was so moved by that and so honored that it was on the page facing my poem. So through the years, occasionally I was asked if I was part Native American, and I always said, I don't know, because I didn't know anything about my father. And then I had my DNA tested by Ancestry and found out I had no Native American blood, but I found a first cousin who helped me identify from her 8 or 10 uncles. It's a large Italian family, and she helped me to identify my father. So I did, however, have a series of dreams with Native American motifs, possibly because at that time I used to go up into the Sierra Nevada, and I would bring offerings of tobacco and pray for the healing of the land. So this is called An Afternoon Nap. A Native American ceremony is in progress. I watch from outside the circle. A single brave is dancing. When he is finished, I'm brought to the circle's edge and presented. I'm young, a beautiful Native maiden who suddenly crinkles up like film subjected to intense heat. I become old right before their eyes. I am now 2 people, young maiden and old woman. I see a fire in the middle of the circle. I know I will be burned at the stake. I go willingly, I'm not afraid. It is a necessary process, a sacrifice I need and want to make. Now I'm in the fire. A white buffalo calf walks into the circle from the east. A woman dressed in white buffalo skin walks with him. They walk sunwise as they come almost full circle from where they entered. I leave with them. I cannot see what I look like. I know I am no longer the young maiden nor the old woman. I do not know what or who I am. So I'll just show you the picture of Ed's, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for sharing. Really appreciate that. Now, please welcome to the mic, Doug Nelson. 50 years after serving in Vietnam, Doug Nelson is still trying to deal with the dissonance that comes with helping his country to be wrong. In 2007, Santa Clara County offered him a way to deal with Vietnam, assisting veterans with disability claims. His friends in the Willow Glen Poetry Project and in Veterans of Life Right are his mentors and Muses. A photograph of Doug's is also in this volume. Please now welcome Doug Nelson. Thank you, Doug.
Fellow poets, thank you for being here with us tonight. We appreciate your support. When you're serving in your country's army in someone else's country, you think about the soldier your age on the other side. And despite your country's attempt to convince you otherwise, being on the other side doesn't mean he's evil or less human than you. This then is for him. To the enemy I never knew. You and I did our jobs. We heard you sending Morse code with the same irregular tempo and hesitations as our own. None of us experts at this. It was our job to listen for you to come up, to copy what you were sending, and to break your codes so that we could read your messages. We wondered about you on the other side. Did you want to go to Morse code school? Did anyone in your army care what you wanted? Was it easier than driving a truck on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, or than chasing us in the hot, steamy jungle? Were you like us just out of boyhood or girlhood? We knew when it was you we heard, because your radio had a sound all its own, like a bee in a Mickey Mouse cartoon. Your signal was different in pitch at different times, like the language you spoke. We pondered whether we should ask our linguists to compose a message to you, asking you to meet us at Mama San's bar for a beer, to talk about this country of yours that you fought so hard to defend, and ours that sent us to make you free and to fly us home after 365 days. To leave you and your country behind forever. We wondered why we didn't hear your messages anymore yesterday or today. Then the sergeant told us that our radio direction finding plane had heard your signal, found where you were, so that the guy in the plane sent your location to me so that I could drive the Jeep to deliver it to division headquarters and to be yelled at by a lieutenant in a starched uniform for my dirty boots. Anyone yell at you? Artillery or helicopter gunships fired on you, so that all the infantry guys found was your busted up radio, a bicycle crank generator, and a seat of a pair of dark blue shorts. You killed him, Nelson, from my sergeant, was followed by, and you know he would have done the same to you. Then we had a chuckle at your pathetic bicycle crank power source that explained the pitch variations in your signal, so that we mocked the sound of your radio while sitting in office chairs making pedaling motions. The joke was on us, because we knew that you endured bombings of a greater magnitude than any in World War II, that you kept your roads and bridges open, rebuilding them within hours with picks and shovels, and delivering supplies to your comrades on bicycles. 50 years later, I'm sorry. I hope that the seat of the pants was just your laundry, that you heard the artillery incoming and got out of the way, that your grandchildren come to your house to see you, and that their laughter and the dust their tricycles kick up make you smile. I have something in a lighter vein. This is called Hookeropter. I'm writing about being a little plastic toy that belongs to a child. I was only a toy made in China of red plastic with yellow rotor blades, like the real ones, to fit a little boy's dream of machines that flew overhead and made bop, 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 bop noises. His daddy gave me to him because he ran outside to see everyone that flew over. My little boy did his best to fit what he heard to what he was able to say, hence Huckeropter. The boy carried me around the house as fast as his little feet would take him, raising me up above his head, calling up, 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 up. The boy grew, played soccer, learned to play guitar well enough, and found a girl to like him. Several years after my last flight, his dad found me in the garden, a blade broken off, buried in dirt. And I went the way of Christmas trees, popsicle sticks, and plastic army men. And the boy, who's a dad, and his dad, remembered me by what remains, my name, Huckeropter. The picture that Robert showed you, anchors. If you have the book with you, if you're reading out of it, that picture's on page 63. Old rust-encrusted boat anchors laid end to end, one fluke in the ground, the other facing upward, on sand dunes, among wildflowers, on the Algarve, coastal Portugal, just before Mediterranean becomes Atlantic. A logical place for anchors, even without boats. But why laid out like this? This area was known for tuna fishing. Once fishermen and their families lived in rows of neat, white painted cottages. They drew their boats up onto the beach and mended their nets before they went out again. Now the main industries here are skimming the salt from ponds drying in the sun, and tourism, taking denizens of damp, foggy Northern European cities to the sandbar in boats, where they go to lie naked in the sun, looking like pink walruses. Why do the tuna boats not go out anymore? No longer to cast out their nets so that strong young men can jump into the teeming mass of huge, desperate fish and, gaffing them behind the head, fling them into their boats. Did fish cease their migrations, or were so many of them caught by more modern means that it no longer makes sense to take the boats out anymore? As it no longer makes sense in my country to make some things anymore because other people make them cheaper and better. But I think rows of anchors in the sand have more dignity than derelict factory buildings. Rust is somehow less mocking than graffiti, more patient and kinder. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and participating. Let me put it on the speaker view here. Now, please welcome to the mic, Amy Meyer. There we go. Hi, Amy. Amy Meyer grew up in New York City and now lives in San Jose. In 2015, Amy founded what was then Veterans Right. Currently now meeting once a month via Zoom, but ordinarily at the San Jose State University's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Library. Her recent work has been published in Cæsura, Porter Gulch Review, and online in Portside. Please welcome Amy Meyer.
Thanks, Rob. And thank you, Joe, as other people have said, for the beautiful way you put this book together. We really appreciate it. So you notice that the book is no longer Veterans' Right, but Veterans of Life Right, in an effort to include non-war veterans, but veterans of life, which includes everybody. And I am the representative of Veterans of Life and not a veteran of war. But my first poem is titled, When I Say I'm a Poet. When I say I'm a poet, I mean, I come alive in language, pouring through me like a class 4 rapid, sometimes feel like electric wire, no insulation, on fire. When I say I'm a poet, I mean like coyote crying in the night, nose pointed at moonlight, ear tuned to hear responding howls. Tell me I am not alone. When I say I'm a poet, I mean the ASL sign for poetry. Start with closed hand on heart, then open hand, palm up, hand outstretched. Each time I write a poem, whatever words I use, this is what I mean to say when I say I'm a poet. And this next one is really short, and I can't exactly claim it to be mine. It's a found poem, and it's reworked a little bit, pretty much verbatim. One small forgotten incident. Interviewed by the BBC reporter, a mother speaks poetry to violence. It's no joke, she says, when you cannot protect your children in your own home. My daughter killed by a stray bullet, my son choking on tear gas. What I fear most, I will not be able to teach my son to love his country. In a slightly more cheerful note, this poem is titled Luck. A man squats in the mud outside the temporary shelter, thinks how his life vanished, how luck abandoned him when his home burned and he ran and hid and ran with his wife and children, carrying only their fragile lives, each of their 2 feet, taking one step at a time. He has heard about the man who built a business in the refugee camp while waiting for resettlement by selling bricks he made from the clay beneath his feet. Wonders if the story could be true. Decides, why not? Years later, emigrating with his family to a new life in a strange country, other people will call him lucky. He will not contradict them. And this is a different kind of war that we're having and not fully acknowledging. Living in the present. The past is history. The future, mystery. The present, a gift. And that's a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. Live in the moment. The present is all there is. In this moment, green buds on black oak branches, section blue sky, patchwork. Hills and valleys filled with gold buttercups, mustard, poppies, wild pink roses, white lilies, purple too, like penstemon. Concert of Townsend and Wilson's warbler, goldfinch, purple finch, chickadee, junco, sparrow, flicker, or maybe that's a mockingbird. Streams splash, red flash of blackbird wing. We could believe we are blessed. And yet, what will we tell the coming generations when they ask about the old days? What was summer like before the smoke? Did you play outside? Could you see the hills, not choke? What was it like before broken houses drowned towns? What do we tell them now about the packed go bag, bottled water, food, blankets, bandages in the trunk? What's that for? They ask. Can we bear to answer? We are a species who lives in the present. We chose not to prevent fires and floods. This is the best we can do to prepare for the worst. In the Burgess Boys, Elizabeth Strout said, "No one wants to believe something is too late, but it's always becoming too late. And then it is." We choose to believe the future will always remain in the future, like the moon remains distant over our heads. Meanwhile, the future creeps closer, teeth bared. Too soon we find ourselves face to face with its cougar stare. And the last is in reference to how this group was formed. And this poem is written in the memory of Jacob George, Arkansas farmer and veteran of 3 tours of Afghanistan. Jacob enlisted at age 19, 1 month after 9/11. On his return, Jacob devoted time to storytelling and songwriting. He described his injury as moral injury, revived the term soldier's heart, which was the term used in the Civil War. At age 32, 1 week after President Obama announced the US military mission in Syria and Iraq, Jacob George committed suicide. The VA reports an average of 20.6 suicides per day, 16.8 veterans, and 3.8 active duty for 2018. And the VA would like us to know that they've now revised those figures. So it's only 17 to 18 suicides per day, including active duty and National Guard. Our writing group is dedicated to healing the soldier's heart and all hearts touched by war. Power of poetry. Poetry can be a voice in the wilderness, a voice of the wilderness, heartbeat, drumbeat. Poetry and a microphone can bring a nation to attention. Poetry can demand the right to heal, reject the pretense of resilience, untwist the strands of pride and shame, honor sacrifice. Poetry can be what you make it. Give voice to the ones who didn't make it. Bear witness. Whatever you want to say, poetry can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much for those words. And thank you for bringing this group together over the years. I want to now welcome Emilio Gallegos. Emilio is a poet and a writer from San Jose and a single father of 2 young adult children. And he also cares for an amazing service dog named Samson. He is a United States Marine Corps and Operation Iraqi Freedom veteran and a Purple Heart recipient. He holds a Bachelor of Arts in English with a concentration in creative writing from San Jose State University and is currently a student in the Masters of Fine Arts in Writing program at California College of the Arts. No, from San Jose State University. And is current, no, California College of the Arts. Sorry, Emilio. Emilio is also currently a Vet Connect peer leader in a psychology-based program at San Jose State University, speaking and presenting regularly about his post-service veteran experience. His work is featured in 2 poetry collections published by Dead Reckoning Collective. One is called In Love and War, the Anthology of Poetry Warriors, Volume 1, and the second, War and After, the Anthology of Poet Warriors, Collection 2. Please welcome Emilio Gallegos.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate everyone being here and joining us today. It's a very special event, so I appreciate them reaching out to us to participate. So I'm just gonna jump right to it because I know you've been here a while, so thank you. Everything I'm gonna read today has started off as a poem I wrote in one day. So real quick, through this last year, after graduating, I wasn't doing much of my life for about 6 months. And so I figured I need to start doing something. So I started writing a poem a day for 30 days in January to February, and then of 2020. And so after about 2 weeks, I had a lot of ideas going on. So I would think all day and try to write the poem before midnight and then do the same. Then the next day, just wash my mind and just start over again. So after 14 days of 1 a day, I thought I could do 2 a day. I have a lot of thoughts going on. So I did 2 a day. And then the third week, I thought I could do 3, and I did 3, but it was really a lot. Like I was not really living a life, just thinking a lot. But so I wrote 50 poems in that 30 days. Took some time, did it again in the middle of the summer. And then school started, my first semester of grad school, California College of the Arts, like Rob said. And so I did the other 30 days again during our winter break between fall and spring now. So all of these came from that, and they all have titles, which are just a date and a timestamp. And for that reason, I just feel like I'm living in those moments, so I'm gonna probably leave them, most of them as that. So before I start, I'd like to thank just my professors at California College of the Arts, because they've helped me edit a few of these, and it's been fantastic experience so far there, so I appreciate them. So again, everything has been written one day as it reads. They're gonna be, I picked a group of different poems. So the first poem will be a haiku. August 12th, 2020, 1:12 p.m. 575 cries, slow, an empty autumn breeze. Barren fig trees weep. So the second poem is going to need an intro. So for one of my courses this semester, it was a warm-up exercise, and a professor described it as a hermit crab exercise. So she said, hermit crabs, when they leave their shell, they take the shape of another shell when they move into another shell. So we had to write something, a piece of work in the style of, like, say, a syllabus to a class or a recipe. So you write something in that shape. And so I wrote a poem in the shape of like a mixed drink ingredient. So I'm gonna read that. It's gonna sound like I'm reading how to make a mixed drink. And so I titled it, so you know, you get a Tom Collins or Margarita. So this one would be called The Missing Eyebrow. That's the name of the drink. And I titled that because in 2009, I lost most of my left eyebrow from taking lorazepam prescribed by the VA for about half a year. So, and that was a really fun time, as you can imagine. So Missing Eyebrow is the name of this poem. And the steps are: mix 1/2 cup of anxiety with 1/2 cup of reintegration. Separately mix 1/2 cup of heightened awareness with 1/2 cup of random emergency room visits. Separately mix 1/2 cup of physical therapy with 1/2 cup of polytrauma therapy. Pour all parts into a shaker of single parenting. Cover and shake vigorously. Remove shaker cover, then stir vigorously. Replace cover again and again, shake vigorously. Pour mix into the coldest, loneliest glass available. Add 1 single cube of ice. Crush 1/2 bottle of lorazepam and sprinkle over prepared drink. Sip slow. Very painfully slow. And this poem kind of fits right into that. They were written different days apart, which is kind of worked well. January 16th, 2020, 2:37 a.m. The lessons in antidepressants are sometimes hard to explain, especially after years begin to pile on and the song you once sang doesn't sound familiar anymore. But trying to remember the words often feels like the right thing to do, because the new you has a better understanding of themselves emotionally. And the recovery isn't as bad as it was in 2008 and 2009 and 2012 and 2016. And your dreams aren't as vivid as they were back then, but the colors still spin when your eyes close. And I suppose that's the reason you always put off going to sleep for as long as you can. Constantly searching to fully understand the intricacies of trauma and memory loss and breathing patterns and happy chemicals and structure and rhyme scheme. And would you know what it means if someone said, back then, I didn't feel like waking up? This is a longer piece, probably the longest piece of the day. I wrote this to a musician. It's a series of things I'll get to later, but not today, but later in my writing situation. It's written to an artist by the name of Jason Upton, who I listened to one of his songs, a few of his songs over and over again in my time in Iraq. And the poem will just explain why and how it came to be. So the poem is titled Lullaby, in remembrance of the title of the song that I'm referring to. And Jason Upton, again, is the artist's name. Jason, did you know that I would listen to Lullaby hundreds of times that Iraqi summer, savoring every second and every sound and every key? It reminded me of my daughter when you'd sing, Daddy, come get me. Because I could hear her yell, you can't get me, as I chased her around the house, back home, remembering how much I loved to comb her hair into zigzag parts or ponytails with braids, afraid that she'd forget those moments long before I was ready to let them go. Jason, did you know that my son went to see you perform that summer, and that I only know of your music because of him? Because when I talked to him late one night, I heard the excitement in his voice when he spoke about you. and I immediately uploaded 2 of your albums to my iPod as a way to connect with him while I was half a world away, hoping that one day we might be listening to the same song while we stare toward the same sun or the same moon. Jason, did you know that your lullaby would fill my eyes with tears when I'd hear its first note? Lying in a dark room with a team of Marines, some passed out, still in uniform, tired from 12-hour shifts, while light glistened off the eyes of others, faces shining in the glow of an open laptop, hoping to stop the rush of emotions with another movie. Jason, did you know that I would weep while driving a 6-ton truck in a foreign land, praying my children would have a partial understanding of why I was there, staring at an obscured picture of a sunset through 3-inch thick glass, laughing at something coming from the passenger seat to keep myself grounded. Jason, did you know every single time you sang the purity, the purity, the purity in me, every time you touch me again, I would imagine holding my daughter's hand or hugging my son after spending half a week away from him, telling them I love you again and again, and each time it felt so real. And I could feel their flesh against mine every single time I played the song over and over, back to back to back, not wanting to focus back on potential breaches in a fence line or finding a random vehicle abandoned on an inoperable runway, irrationally resting under an LN bar sun, or 3 of us driving out to the front gate tower to problem solve one single man sitting atop an overpass for no apparent reason. And Jason, did you know that there is a season for everything? A time to be born and a time to die, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. This is the last poem of this first portion of our performance tonight. August 11th, 2020, 3:06 p.m. I am slowly becoming my own favorite person, earnestly trying to listen to trumpets fading off in the distance. Rob, did you want to introduce my sister, or should you do after this? Actually, she's going to start after this, so you want to introduce my sister?
Yes. With Emilio, our special guest is Vanessa Sanchez. Let me get Vanessa up here on the spotlight. There you are, Vanessa. A Chicana native dancer, choreographer, and educator who focuses on community arts and traditional dance forms to emphasize voices and experiences of Latina, Chicana, and indigenous women and youth. Based in San Francisco, she is a 2019 Dance USA Artist Fellow and a recipient of the 2019 New England Foundation for the Arts National Dance Production Grant. Sanchez is the founding artistic director of La Mezcla, a rhythmic ensemble of women of color that explores historical narratives and challenges social injustice through tap dance, Mexican zapateado, and Afro-Caribbean rhythms. Her production, Pachuquismo, an all-female tap dance and Son Jarocho performance about the 1943 Zoot Suit riots, received the Isadora Duncan Award for Outstanding Production, and currently has touring subsidies available through 2022. Sanchez's work was featured in the Lincoln Center's Virtual Concerts for Kids, KQED's If Cities Could Dance. Check that out. The link is in the Facebook post for this event. and the Joyce Theater Joyce Stream. She is currently a dance lecturer at UC Santa Cruz and received the Hewlett 50 Arts Commission grant for her upcoming work, Ghostly Labor, a percussive piece that explores the legacies of female labor in the US-Mexico borderlands, set to premiere in 2023. Please welcome Vanessa Sanchez.
Okay, I'm going to give a short introduction to us as a pair. My sister and I were birthed by a mother whose father was a man that had 13 children. And after his wife's early and untimely passing, he continued to provide for his family as a single, hardworking, and dedicated father. He was also a father to me for the first few years of my life, sharing everything he had and loving me as only a truly dedicated family man could. Dario Avendaño Mendoza, our grandfather, left Orizaba, Veracruz in Mexico at the age of 16 and wouldn't see any of his family again until some 60 years later. We loved him very much. We still do. He passed away about 4.5 years ago, just before his 97th birthday. My sister lived in Mexico for a couple of years, and specifically in Veracruz, spending lots of time with our grandfather on his native soil in the land of our ancestors. Unfortunately, when I finally traveled to Orizaba a couple of years back with my children and our mother, I didn't have the same opportunities to love on my grandfather in his homeland the way my sister did, and I'm pained by that. I am grateful for this opportunity here tonight, as it is the first time my sister and I have been invited to share the same stage, and we are truly thankful for that. Our Tata would be proud of us today. So, in honor of our grandfather, Dario Avendaño Mendoza, and all of your ancestors, we invite you to walk comfortably into remembrance with us. The cancer of my ancestors. The cancer of my ancestors. The cancer of my ancestors. The cancer of my ancestors pushing through my veins, and a slow song of suffering stains the ground where my feet now walk. But we are talking and speaking through butterflies disguised as floating words. In origin stories and allegories, drums beat. Drums beat. Drums beat. Drums beat. You're going to die, and I'm going to die. Framed ideas glorified under recessed lighting, hiding sunshine, bleeding, a holy trinity of passion, shame, and overexposure. In no particular order, buried along borders of here and there, surrounded by flowers and fish and fistful of silver tears, sharing space and stories without words in a place where Quetzal birds carry clouds full of songs. Am I wrong? Tiptoeing in circles of ceremony, celebrating transformation, one conversation at a time. The mystery of flying guitars and amber-colored stars shining atop rivers of turquoise water, washing over unclean lips, dipping stained strips of flesh into left-moving waves. Stubborn love singing ballads of revolution, riding the weathered spine of memory to a symphony of trumpets and flutes wrapped in maguey roots, colored with codices and leaves of cacao, burnt by the sun, like the skin of our ancestors. Grand gestures answered in sacred dreams, drowning in prayers that fill spaces in between, where green feathers dance over streams of blood and a flood of obsidian smoke. Choking away death by assimilation and an overwhelming sensation to belong to a choir of quartz and jade, burning sage in the shade of temples handmade by savages. Savoring the sour smell of disease, healing infected trees, and watering gardens of lies, with my eyes on burials, disguised as sowing, knowing that you're going to die and I'm going to die again and again and again. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Emilio. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you for joining us tonight. Fantastic performance. Thank you. And thank you to all those who joined us tonight. Jeffrey Leonard, Carol Steele, Nick Butterfield, Carol Coughlin. We also say thanks to Doug Nelson, Amy Meyer, Emilio, Vanessa, to Joe Miller for the design of the book, to our artist, Ed Carrion, and also to Doug Nelson, Sam Smith, and Aaron Toole. And would like now to open it up for a brief open mic as we still have some time. And the way we're going to do this is just put your name in the chat, and I'll do my best to write it all down and bring you to the stage.
As you
can we
guys do that,
unmute?
I want to give a shout out to Emilio and Samson. They're going to be in a film that I'm putting in the chat right there, Dog Walk Home, and go see the preview of the film Dog Walk Home. It's some of it's filmed at Work San Jose with some of you guys there, you know, and Emilio and Samson, and I'm hoping that they can get the production done. It's already won an award for best upcoming short film. So congratulations there. I made a little mistake, by the way, on Aaron's service. He was in the Marines in the Gulf War. Sorry that I misspoke that. I don't know why the heck I made that mistake there, but thanks so much for all of those great performances, for putting together the multimedia performance there with Vanessa as well, and Emilio. Great to see you again tonight, and see all of you guys, and check out as well Dog Walk Home and see Samson. All right.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that.
Yes, and you can share this on our YouTube channel. This is being live streamed, and we're going to, of course, leave this up for sharing. And also, I'll put into the chat a link to Vanessa Sanchez and the KQED program for more information about that program and their mission with dance. I see Janine UC has joined for the open mic. And is there anybody else who would like also to participate in the open mic? Just let me know in the chat box. Okay. Larry Hollis. Very good. Janine. We'll welcome Janine UC to the mic.
Yeah, I'm going to just do a short one. Whoops, just a minute. Let me solve the technical issues. Okay. So, spiked spheres of death fall from liquid amber. COVID-19 molecules with their protein spikes on a graph. I'll read it again. Spiked spheres of death fall from liquid amber. COVID-19 molecules with their protein spikes on a graph. Thank you.
Lovely, Janine. Thank you so much. Now, please welcome to the mic, Larry Hollis.
Hey, I'm having problems getting my PC up to get something up, so we can either end this or someone else and swing back to me, whichever you prefer.
That's okay, Larry.
So, but it was really great tonight. I really loved Emmanuel and his sister. That makes me want to do something with my sister now, who's a dancer.
Yes, indeed. Well, I have put into the chat the link to Vanessa Sanchez's the KQED information about their program, their mission, and check it out. It's on YouTube. And with that, since nobody else has elected to participate for the open mic, again, want to thank you all for joining us tonight. And thank you for participating, all the poets, and for joining us. Vanessa, much appreciated. Hope to see you all at upcoming events at Poetry Center. And wishing you all health and safety. It's been a profound night. I've had to get off camera to dry up some tears periodically, so my apologies for that. But many thanks, and sending you my heart, all of you, and my best wishes to you and all of your families.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. And support Works San Jose. Thank you to Works San Jose for their continued sponsorship of this program. We're approaching 10 years with Works, and looking for many years to come. So thank you to Works San Jose and Joe Miller, as always.
All right, and get the book. There's some folks who said that they're gonna get the book. You can go to pcsj.org to look up how to get Veterans of Life Right. So order yours. Order multiple copies. All right.
If you put in the pre-funding, did you have to order it again, or was that not counted?
The pre-funding was not successful, so so we're only on sales after the publication.
Okay, so I'll have to order it then. All right.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, I just want to make sure where we're at. We've had last week some things stolen from our front porch, so.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody was refunded by Kickstarter or whatever Rob used to do that.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll order the book because I want one.
All
at
right.
least one.
For information about ordering, you can email info@pcsj.org. I will be sure to get that, as well as Joe and Bill. And we will communicate with you about next steps to order the book, if you want to avoid ordering from Amazon.com.
So thanks so much too for the compliments tonight. I want to give one last shout out to Barbara Carrion, who really got us Ed's work, and who she had no idea how to do this, how to get us like scans of the work, and we worked through it, and she really came through for all of us, and for her husband Ed in a beautiful way, who really appreciates what we put together. So so thanks for your patience, Amy, with the project, and thanks for all your work putting us all together here. Thanks.
Amy, thank you for your work in making this happen.
And thank you.
Let's unmute everybody and hear the cacophony of claps and cheers. What do you say, Joe?
Yep. Let's do it.
Thanks for joining us, Brandon. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us. Mary Sanchez, thank you for joining us. Nick, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thorpe, thank you for joining us. Serena Gallegos, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting us.
Okay. Isabel Rivera, thank you for joining us. Yeah, Jonathan Banegas, thank you. Hope to see you folks again. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks, everyone.
Take
Good
care.
night.
Thank you. It was a wonderful evening.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone.
Carol Steele, thank you. Carol Coughlin, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Rob.
Jamie, thank you. Emilio, thank you. Vicky Topaz, thank you so much. Hugs to you, Joe Miller.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take care of your health, everybody.
Indeed.
Anya. Pushpa, good to see you. Hope it's better TV that we provided here for you.
It was really lovely.
Thanks for showing up.
Wonderful idea, Rob, to get Emilio and Vanessa on the same platform there. It was
You know,
genius.
I wanted to do that, and it seemed natural to me because in marching, you know, in formation, and I knew a little bit about La Mezcla, and it just seemed like a natural combination because you're doing that in boot camp and marching, and it's bodies in motion, and wanted to re-billify and bring that motion and movement and sound in the body to the poem. And I'm glad you appreciate it, and glad Vanessa could join
Wonderful.
us.
Yes.
I have to tell you that when you guys started reading, I was just so overwhelmed, you know. I was just absolutely overwhelmed by all the voices and the experiences. It was just really very sad.
Thank you, Pushpa.
Thank you so much for all of this.
Pushpa. Thank you,
Beautifully
Pushpa.
done. Yeah.
Thank you, Pushpa.
Thank you, Joe. My gosh, that's really beautifully done. Beautiful. I'm really looking forward
Great
to
book.
copying at some.
And look for Vicky Topaz's film, like Joe mentioned. And Vicky, certainly reach out to us if you have any interest. If you see something here for the film that you're working on, let us know. We'd be happy to help you. Genevieve Wong, thank you for joining us tonight. I see your name.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that name. Jen, I'm glad that you were here, that you're still here.
Yeah, Genevieve.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Good night. Good night. Bye.
Thank you, Genevieve.
Bye.
Bye. And Vicky, thanks for coming out tonight. Good to see you. Hope the project
Good to
is
see you,
going
Genevieve.
okay. And
Thank you,
would love
Joe.
to help. Would love to help a showing sometime. Yeah.
Be lovely.
Yeah. Good night, all.
Good
Good
night.
night,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.